I want him to see me the way he sees Ijoma. I want him to treat me like a queen and hate Ijoma. Hate her so much that her name alone would be irritating to him. She cried with jealousy and anger. Nkata laughed. Once upon a time, in a very beautiful African village called Nri, set in the eastern parts of Nigeria, where lush green fields that stretched as far as the eye could see, and happy villagers dwelled in harmony. Among these villagers was a very beautiful girl named Ijoma. Ijoma was an orphan who grew up with her mother in Nri. Originally, Nri was not their village. Her mother, under great pressure, had fled from their home village of Ika and settled in Nri with her only child and daughter, Ijoma. Sadly, when Ijoma was just 15 years old, her mother passed away, leaving her to face the world alone. Despite the hardships, Ijoma was a very lovely girl and the entire village adored her. She had a kind heart that shone through in everything she did. Even if she didn't have much, she was always willing to share the little she had with others. She never walked past anyone in need without stopping to offer help. Her words were so soothing that they could calm even the most troubled mind, and her smile was so bright that it could cheer up anyone's day. Because of her kindness and warmth, the villagers affectionately nicknamed her Angel. The villagers loved Ijoma so much that when her mother died, they rallied around to support her. They gave her farmlands to cultivate, and although she was just a young girl, Ijoma worked very hard. Her hard work paid off, and she not only had enough to eat, but also enough to share with others in her own little way. The villagers continued to support her, and she became an integral part of the community, spreading kindness and joy wherever she went. But aside from her beauty and kind heart, there was something about Ijoma that no one except herself and her mother knew. It was a big secret, and that was why her mother had to run away with her to Nri. In Nri, Ijoma had one close friend named Dera. Dera was the son of a wealthy chief in their village. Ijoma's mother, Ojeli, used to work for Dera's father on his farmlands, and Dera loved coming to the farm with his father to hunt grasshoppers. That was how he met Ijoma. The two of them would play and play until their parents were ready to go home. Despite the difference in their social classes, they built a very strong friendship that only grew stronger as the days passed. Ijoma and Dera were inseparable. They shared their dreams, fears, and secrets. Although Ijoma never revealed her biggest secrets, Dera loved to teach Ijoma everything he knew, from hunting to climbing trees, and Ijoma taught Dera how to find the best fruits and how to weave baskets from palm fronds. They would laugh together, cry together, and supported each other through thick and thin. Their bond was so strong that even the villagers noticed and smiled warmly whenever they saw the two friends together. Even after Ojeli passed on, Dera stood by Ijoma. He was the closest friend and family she had, and he gave her all the support she needed. His father had everything and more, and Dera promised never to allow Ijoma to suffer. The friendship they had shared since childhood was gradually transforming into something deeper, as both of them could barely stay away from each other. Dera grew into a very strong man, taking on more responsibilities as he helped his aging father manage the farmlands and cattle. Every evening, after a long day's work, he would sit under the big tree in front of Ijeoma's hut. There, they would share interesting stories, laugh to their heart's content, and forget the worries of the world. The bond they shared was priceless, a rare gem in the village of Umri. As the days turned into months and the months into years, Dera and Ijeoma's connection only grew stronger. Dera was there for her, offering a helping hand whenever she needed it. He would bring her fresh farm produce from his father's farm, and sometimes little gifts that showed how much he cared. Ijeoma, on her part, would cook delicious meals for them to share under the tree, and they would talk until the stars filled the night sky. Their evenings together became a cherished routine. The villagers often saw them and remarked on how perfect they were for each other. They admired the way Dera cared for Ijeoma, and many hoped that their friendship would blossom into something even more special. Dera's father, though old and wise, noticed the deep affection between his son and Ijeoma. He often spoke to Dera about the importance of love and companionship, hinting that he saw Ijeoma as part of their family. Dera, who had always felt a strong bond with Ijeoma, began to realize that his feelings for her went beyond friendship. He loved her deeply and wanted to spend the rest of his life with her, but he didn't mention it to her. He wanted to be sure that she also saw him beyond their friendship. He loved what they shared and never wanted anything to come in between. Unfortunately, this deep friendship attracted enemies to Ijeoma. These enemies were the village maidens who had a crush on Dera, but he had refused to look their way or even pay attention to them. Dera was a big deal in the village. He was very handsome, kind, and the son of the richest chief in Uri. Every girl wanted him, but none could get his attention because he was always seen around Ijeoma and cared less about anyone else. This made the other maidens so jealous that they would often pick on Ijeoma for no reason. Despite their mean behavior, Ijeoma didn't mind. She knew it wasn't her fault that Dera had chosen to be with her instead. Whenever Ijeoma passed, the jealous maidens would murmur and clap their hands in mockery. "I wonder what he even sees in that girl," they would say. "She's just a poor gold digger. I even look better than her, but Dera won't even look my way. She must have blinded him with juju, because I can't even imagine what explanation could be to this." Another would add, "I pray she falls into our trap one day so we can break those skinny legs of her." They would all laugh, their eyes burning with jealousy and resentment. Ijeoma, with her kind heart, tried to ignore their hurtful words. She focused on her work and on her friendship with Dera, drawing strength from the love and support he gave her. She knew that their bond was pure and true, something that the jealous maidens couldn't understand or break. But the whispers and taunts continued, and the village maidens grew more determined to find a way to separate Ijeoma from Dera. They would mock her clothes, her work, and even her smile. Look at her, thinking she's so special, they would sneer. "She's not even from this village. How dare she steal our Dera?" But they knew they couldn't hurt her, as they all didn't want to be in Dera's bad book. One day, as Ijeoma was returning from the farm, she heard a sound coming from the bush. It was so compelling that she stopped in her tracks to listen. It was the sound of a young girl crying. Ijeoma's heart ached at the thought of someone in distress, and though She felt a momentary hesitation. Her compassionate nature won out. She wanted to know why the girl was crying and see if she could offer any comfort. So, even after she had started to walk away, she turned back and entered the bush to search for the crying maiden. As she moved deeper into the bush, she was shocked by what she saw. There, sitting on the ground and sobbing, was a young maiden carrying a little baby. Tears filled Ijeoma's eyes as she took in the pitiable sight. She approached the girl gently and asked, "Who are you and what happened to you?" The girl looked up, her eyes filled with tears, and replied, "My name is Nkiru, and I'm from a neighboring village. I'm an orphan, but my stepmother is still alive. She maltreats me a lot, and I ran away from my father's house. I met this young man who offered to help me. He took me in and I began to live with him. But life became even more miserable for me. He would always beat me and abuse me with harsh and horrible words at the slightest opportunity. To make matters worse, I got pregnant. That was when he showed me through hell. After I gave birth, he told me he was getting married and threw me out of the house. I had nowhere to go, so I went back to my father's house, but my stepmom also threw me out. I'm stranded and don't know what to do." Nkiru's story was so touching that Ijeoma's heart filled with pity. She couldn't leave her in the bush as it was very dangerous. She decided to help her. "I'm also an orphan and I understand what it means not to have anyone," she said softly. "Please, come with me. I have enough space at my place and we can live together." Nkiru's eyes widened with gratitude and she smiled through her tears. Luck had finally smiled on her. She thanked Ijeoma endlessly as they both began the journey back to Ijeoma's home. As they walked, Ijeoma reassured Nkiru that she was not alone anymore and that they would face their challenges together. They shared their stories, hopes, and dreams, and a new bond of friendship and sisterhood began to form between them. When they arrived at Ijeoma's hut, Nkiru was amazed by the warm and welcoming atmosphere. Ijeoma showed her around and helped her settle in. When Dara came to visit Ijeoma that evening, she told him about Nkiru and her touching story. Dara listened intently, his concern growing with each word. "You don't even know her. You can't be sure if her story is true," he said, worried. "Don't you think it's dangerous?" Ijeoma dismissed Dara's concern with a gentle smile. "Dara, you worry too much. Don't worry. Nkiru only needs help, and there's nothing wrong with helping her. Remember, I'm also an orphan." Dara knew Ijeoma too well to argue further. Once she made up her mind, there was no changing it. He admired her kind heart, but also worried about how soft-hearted she was, hoping she wouldn't get hurt one day. The next day, Dara met Nkiru and her baby. He couldn't help but feel sorry for her. She looked like someone who had endured a lot of suffering and hardship. Seeing the genuine distress in her eyes, Dara's initial skepticism faded. He decided to help and support them in every possible way, understanding how difficult it would be for Ijeoma to cater for Nkiru and her son alone. He spent more time at Ijeoma's place, bringing food and supplies to ease their burden. He helped around the farm and played around with Nkiru's baby, bringing laughter and joy to the little household. Dara's presence and support made a significant difference, and Nkiru began to feel a sense of security and belonging she hadn't felt in a long time. As days turned into weeks, Nkiru's gratitude towards Ijoma and Dera grew immensely. She worked hard alongside Ijoma on the farm and helped with household chores, determined to repay their kindness. The bond between the three of them grew stronger, creating a small family bound by compassion and mutual respect. Their evenings under the big tree became a cherished routine. They shared stories, laughter, and dreams, building a future filled with hope and love. Years flew by, and Ijoma and Nkiru bonded like siblings. Their friendship was admired by everyone in the village, as they were always seen together doing everything and supporting one another. Ijoma had helped Nkiru heal from her trauma with comforting words and constant support. She made sure that Nkiru and her son Ugunne lacked nothing and were happy. She was glad to have found someone she could call her sister and loved Nkiru dearly. Dera continued to visit in the evenings, sharing special moments with the girls. He would bring them many gifts and loved spending time with Ugunne, carrying him around the village as if he were his own son. Being an only child himself, Dera cherished this moment and found great joy in the presence of the little boy. However, Nkiru noticed something strange about Ijoma the moment she stepped into that house. Every midnight, Ijoma would scream in her sleep. The first time Nkiru heard it, she was terrified, but as the years passed, it became a source of concern. Why was Ijoma always screaming? She also never slept without a light on. Nkiru had asked her several times about it, but Ijoma had always refused to share the reason. The only thing she did was to plead with her never to mention it to Dera. Nkiru kept her fears to herself, hoping that one day Ijoma would feel comfortable enough to confide in her. Despite the love and support surrounding her, Ijoma carried a burden that she couldn't yet share. Her nightmares were a remnant of a past she had tried to leave behind. The light at night was her comfort against the shadows that haunted her dreams. Nkiru could see the pain in Ijoma's eyes every morning after a night of restless sleep, but she respected her friend's privacy, offering silent support and patience. One night, after Ijoma had screamed as usual and had woken up, panting in fear, Nkiru held her, comforting her and helping her relax. Nkiru spoke softly. "You scare me a lot, Ijoma. I just wish you could let me into your life. Tell me what's going on. I'm scared for you." Tears welled up in Ijoma's eyes as she began to share her story. "I've never said this to anyone, but I trust you as my sister," Ijoma began, her voice trembling. "Years ago, when I was born, the priestess in my village fell very sick, and everyone knew she was going to die. According to our customs, a replacement needed to be found immediately, so they began consulting the oracles. I was chosen. I was just 2 years old then. Anyone chosen to be the priestess was not to marry, but remain a virgin until death. My mother had waited many years to have me, and she was heartbroken because I would be taken away from her and raised in the shrine. My father, who should have protested and stood up for her, was gone, and that was why my mother had to run away with me. She didn't want me to become the priestess of Ningo. Every night, I see them in my dreams, chasing me and trying to kill me. I can't even sleep peacefully." Tears filled her eyes. "I didn't beg for this. Why can't I live a normal life?" she cried. Nkiru held Ijoma tightly and whispered, but you can go back to your village. There you will find peace if you do what you ought to do. Don't you get it? I can't, Ijoma cried. I've fallen in love with Dera and I love him so much. I want to be with him. Nkiru was silent, processing Ijoma's story. She also had secretly fallen in love with Dera herself. He was such a good man, and she often wished he would look at her the way he looked at Ijoma. It hurt her deeply to realize that he had eyes only for Ijoma. But you will be placing his life at risk, Nkiru continued. You know how jealous these deities can be. They may even end up killing him. I'm really worried about that too. I can't bear it if anything happens to him. Have you told him? Nkiru asked gently. No, Ijoma shook her head. I'm scared that he may leave me. Nkiru nodded thoughtfully, a plan forming in her head. Probably, this was the one opportunity she had always looked for. A few weeks passed, and one evening, Ijoma returned from an outing with Dera, her face glowing with excitement. Guess what? She said to Nkiru, barely able to contain her joy. You know I'm very bad at guessing, but I know it must be something good, Nkiru replied with a smile. Well, Ijoma continued, Dera has asked me to marry him. And he also said we would be relocating to the city after we get married. He wants to start a business there, she said excitedly. Nkiru felt a pang of coldness in her heart. She managed a small smile, but deep inside, her heart burned. She was in love with Dera and had dreamed many times of having a beautiful life with him. She knew these feelings were wrong, but she just couldn't help it. Ijoma noticed her friend's cold attitude and turned to her. Are you not happy for me? She asked. No, not that I'm not happy, Nkiru managed a smile, feeling ashamed that she had been caught. I'm just worried. Did you tell him your secret? Does he know who you are? Ijoma's happiness was cut short immediately. She felt hurt and also wondered why Nkiru would bring up such a painful memory during such a happy moment. She began to regret sharing her secret with Nkiru, who now never failed to remind her of it every single day, as if she had a loss of memory. It wasn't her fault that she found herself in such a situation. She quickly walked out of the compound and found a quiet place where she sat down and cried. What was supposed to be a joyful day for her had turned out to be a sad one. As days passed, the weight of her secret began to weigh heavily on her. What would Dera do if she told him about it? Would he stop seeing her and end their marriage plans? This began to give her serious concern. One evening, as she sat under the big tree, Dera joined her. He noticed her troubled expression and gently took her hand. Ijoma, what's wrong? You've been so distant lately. Please talk to me. Ijoma looked into Dera's eyes, her heart pounding. She knew she couldn't keep the secret from him any longer, but she was terrified of losing him. I feel sick, she said instead. Dera held her hands, trying to feel her temperature. I will get you some herbs tomorrow, and I believe you will feel better after taking them. Ijoma managed a smile. The next afternoon, Dera brought some herbs, excited to see Ijoma. He really has been worried about her. When he got to her hut, he met Nkiru. Ijoma was still in the farm and Nkiru was making lunch. She exchanged greetings excitedly with Dera, and even congratulated him for his engagement with Ijoma, when she couldn't even say a little word of congratulation to Ijoma herself. Dara dropped the herbs with a promise to return in the evening. But as he turned to leave, Nkiru called him back. Please, I have something to share with you. Dara looked at her, a serious expression on his face. Is everything okay? He asked. She shook her head. It's not. It's about Ijoma. She is not who she seemed to be, and if you eventually marry her, you will die. Dara's eyes widened in shock. How do you mean? She came close and whispered, Don't let her know I told you this. It's her secret and you are a good man. You deserve to know the truth. What is it? Dara said, raising his voice slightly. He was running out of patience. Nkiru opened up Ijoma's secret to him. Dara stood there, shocked. He knew this was not a made-up story. Traditionally, he understood the implications of this. Why had Ijoma kept this away from him? Ever since he proposed to her, she had been acting weird, and constantly he had asked her what was bothering her, but she didn't say a word. He had even brought her these herbs, so she could take it and get better. Was this it? If it was, then it was really serious. But what hurt him the most was how someone he had loved and grown up with all through his life would even keep such a secret from him. He walked out of the compound sadly. Nkiru was happy. This meant a breakup, and then Dara would be single and available for other people to mingle with him. She would do all she can to win his heart. Nkiru watched him leave, a smile of satisfaction on her face. That evening, when Ijoma returned from the farm, she sensed something was wrong. Dara didn't come by as he usually did, and when she saw the herbs, she knew he had been there. She asked Nkiru if Dara had come by, and Nkiru nodded nonchalantly. He did. He dropped off the herbs and left. Ijoma felt a knot forming in her stomach. Something was definitely off. She decided to visit Dara's house to see what was wrong. When she arrived, she found him sitting alone, looking troubled. Dara, what's wrong? She asked, her voice filled with concern. Dara looked up, his eyes filled with a mixture of hurt and anger. Why didn't you tell me, Ijoma? Why did you keep such a big secret from me? Ijoma's heart sank. She knew immediately what he was talking about. Dara, I was going to tell you. I just didn't know how. Didn't know how? Dara repeated, his voice rising. I've loved you all my life, and you couldn't trust me with the truth. Do you even know how serious this is? Tears welled up in Ijoma's eyes. I'm so sorry, Dara. I was scared. Scared of losing you. Scared of what might happen. Dara stood up, his frustration evident. See, I need some time to think, he said, turning away from her. Please, just go. Ijoma's heart broke as she left Dara's house. She walked back to her hut, hot tears streaming down her face. The only person she had told this secret was Nkiru. Why had she betrayed her this way? She was broken and decided to go to the river to cool off. She felt hot and angry at the same time. She wondered what Nkiru had to gain from hurting her this way, when all she had done was to love her like a sister. At night, she picked herself up and headed home. She didn't even have the energy in her to confront Nkiru. She got home and went straight to bed without even eating. Nkiru watched her, satisfied with the unfolding events. The following morning, she pretended to feel concerned by probing Ijeoma with so many questions, but Ijeoma didn't respond. She was too angry to talk to Nkiru. For days, she lay in her hut crying. She couldn't eat or drink. The thought of losing Dera ripped her heart into pieces. As Ijeoma was mourning, Dera kept his distance, trying to process everything he had learned. Ijeoma was devastated, knowing that she might lose the love of her life because of her secret, a secret she should have shared with him. Nkiru, on the other hand, saw this as her opportunity. She began visiting Dera more often, offering support and companionship. "Dera, I know this is hard for you," Nkiru said one evening, "but you deserve to be happy. You deserve someone who can share everything with you without secrets. You've been nothing but a good man to her, but see how she repays you. She even wants you to die." Dera nodded, still deep in thought. "I just don't understand why she couldn't trust me. If she had told me, we could have faced it together." Nkiru placed a comforting hand on his arm. Sometimes fear makes people do things they wouldn't normally do. But you have to think about your future and what will make you truly happy. As days turned into weeks, the rift between Dera and Ijeoma grew wider. Ijeoma, feeling the weight of her secret and the loss of Dera's trust, became more withdrawn. Nkiru continued trying her best to win Dera's heart, but the more she tried, the more difficult it seemed. The only thing Dera seemed to always talk about was how much he loved Ijeoma, which really angered Nkiru. Determined to make Dera hers, she decided to use charms to achieve her goals. She wanted him to treat her the way he treated Ijeoma, and to hate Ijeoma deeply. Keeping quiet might mean her losing him, and eventually he would run back to Ijeoma's arms. She traveled with her son by boat to a faraway village to meet a powerful native doctor who lived in the forest. It was a long journey that took 3 days, but she eventually arrived. Nkata, the native doctor, was feared and trusted. People said his charms never failed. She had heard about him when she was with her stepmother, who was very diabolical. When she met Nkata, she poured out her heart to him. "I want him to see me the way he sees Ijeoma. I want him to treat me like a queen and hate Ijeoma. Hate her so much that her name alone would be irritating to him," she cried with jealousy and anger. Nkata laughed. "This is just a small favor to ask. By the time I am done with him, he will sing your praises morning, afternoon, and night, and will not look at any other woman except you. He will worship the ground you walk on." Nkiru was thrilled. This was exactly what she wanted. She dropped a few coins, and Nkata began his ritual. He sang and danced, calling on the gods. Then he brought out a powder and a string of waist beads. "You will take these items and return to your village. These waist beads must always be on your waist, and you must apply this powder to your face anytime you want to visit him. It's that simple. When you do this, he will not only love you, but will worship you and do all you say. Your words will always be his final decision. But you must avoid water touching this bead. Rain must not beat you with it on your waist, as it will be dangerous if it does. Go, my daughter, he finished. Enjoy your man the way you desire. Nkiru thanked Nkata and headed home happily. Back in the village, she followed Nkata's instructions carefully. She wore the waist beads and applied the powder before visiting Dera. As soon as she approached him, she noticed a change. Dera's eyes softened, and he looked at her with admiration. Nkiru, you look so beautiful today, he said, a strange warmth in his voice. Nkiru smiled, knowing the charm was working. She spent more time with Dera, and gradually he began to treat her with the same kindness and attention he once reserved for Ijeoma. His words of affection and praise made Nkiru feel powerful. However, Nkiru made sure to avoid water as instructed. She stayed indoors when it rained and was cautious near rivers and streams. The charms worked perfectly, and Dera became more enamored with her each day, while his feelings for Ijeoma waned. He was head over heels in love with her. Everything she said was all he did. He even built a hut for her in the village, where she moved in with her son, and he showered her with love, gifts, and care. The rumor spread throughout the village about Nkiru's relationship with Dera. Many pitied Ijeoma, who was now a shadow of her former self. The once bright, shiny, and happy Ijeoma was now an epitome of sadness. She wore it like a dress. She felt broken, betrayed, and hurt. She regretted ever helping Nkiru. It was the worst day of her life. She had shown her nothing but love, but Nkiru chose instead to ruin her life, to ruin all the happiness she had built for herself over the years. The village maidens, who were once jealous of her, began to mock her. One that shall never cease to end, they would say. I always knew she held him with a charm, and now Dera's eyes are clear. Look at her cockroach legs, they would laugh. This constant ridicule began to get to Ijeoma, as she was still very much broken. One day, it got so bad that she got into a fight with one of the maidens, and the others ganged up against her and beat her up. This was the opportunity they had always looked forward to. Every evening, Ijeoma would sit under the tree where she usually met with Dera and sing her heart out. It was a song of sorrow that she sang in her dialect. Nemo, Nemo, Ogome Bomo. Nemo, Nemo, Ogome Bomo. Asim Kanyaka, Ogome Bomo. Asim Kanyaka, Ogome Bomo. It meant, my mother, my goodness has killed me. I only wanted to help, but my kind-heartedness had turned against me. She would sit there and cry till midnight, feeling utterly alone and dejected. One evening, as she was singing under the tree, an old woman passing by heard her sorrowful song. The old woman, touched by her deep sadness, approached her. My daughter, why do you sing such a sorrowful song? She asked gently. Ijeoma, surprised by the presence of the old woman, wiped her tears and explained her plight. The old woman listened carefully, nodding with understanding. You have been wronged deeply, my child. But goodness and kindness are never wasted. They will come back to you in ways you can't imagine. Just to watch and see what will happen. Ijoma was comforted a bit, but she never saw the old woman again. She wondered if she was even human or spirit, but she was too grieved to even bother. Dara and Nkiru's love continued to blossom under the influence of the charm. Dara's father, Chief Annie, grew increasingly worried about this new relationship and called Dara to talk to him. But Dara ignored his parents' concerns, as the charm had a strong hold on him, making Nkiru's actions seem flawless. Dara's hatred for Ijoma grew with each passing day. He couldn't even bear to hear her name. One day, Ijoma met Dara along the village road. Desperate to make him see how much she was hurting, she tried to talk to him, but he spoke to her harshly, in a way he had never done before. He warned her sternly not to ever speak to him again. Ijoma watched the man she had loved all her life walk past her, his words piercing her heart. She was broken and ran home with tears streaming down her face. She locked herself inside her hut and cried her heart out, repeatedly asking, "Nkiru, what did I ever do to you?" She endured shame and ridicule for Dara and Nkiru's sake. People would point fingers at her, some offering comfort while others openly mocked her, especially the jealous maidens. They were delighted that even if they couldn't have Dara, someone else had taken over. One day, while returning from the stream, Ijoma overheard some maidens discussing Nkiru and Dara. They were finally getting married, and Nkiru had asked the girls to be her bridesmaid. Ijoma's heart jumped. What? Her Dara was getting married to Nkiru. The maiden stopped talking when they saw her, but she had already heard enough. She dropped her water pot on the ground and ran home, her heart pounding with pain and disbelief. As she reached her hut, she collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. The weight of betrayal and heartbreak was too much to bear. She stayed in her hut for days, refusing to see anyone or eat anything. Her spirit was broken and she felt utterly alone. Meanwhile, Dara continued to prepare for his wedding with Nkiru, oblivious to the pain and chaos it was causing. The villagers gossiped about the upcoming marriage, some in awe of Nkiru's luck, while others pitied Ijoma's misfortune. This one really broke Ijoma into pieces. She had hoped that Dara was only using Nkiru to spite her, and that they would eventually make up, but this was utterly far from the truth. Reality was now dawning on her. She sat under the tree and wept loudly. She cried so hard as she sang, calling on her mother. Nemo, Nemo, Ogome Bomo. Nemo, Nemo, Ogome Bomo. Asim Kanyaka, Ogome Bomo. Asim Kanyaka, Ogome Bomo. All the beautiful memories she shared with Dara stood before her, making her heart rip in pain. She had no one to console her, and she couldn't even trust anyone right now. Moving on seemed very difficult for her. As she cried, the clouds changed, and the sky made a rumbling noise. It was about to rain. She didn't mind. She sat under the tree as the rain poured down fiercely on her. Nkiru was returning from the village square, where she had gone to invite the dancers to her marriage ceremony. She had boasted with her shoulders high that she was going to shut down the village and that her marriage ceremony was going to be like a royal marriage. Dera's parents were so wealthy and they were ready to flaunt their wealth for their only son. The entire village really anticipated this marriage and it was to be held at the village square. As Nkiru was returning, the rain, which had given no prior warning, began to pour down heavily. Nkiru was wearing the beads and panicking, she ran as fast as her legs could carry her. She couldn't allow this rain to ruin her plans, but it was all too late. The rain soaked her before she even got to her hut. Panicking, she took the beads off. "What am I going to do?" she cried, pacing up and down with her hands on her head. Dera had just returned from the farm before the rain started and was resting in his hut when suddenly he remembered Ijoma. "Ijoma! Ijoma!" he screamed as he ran out of his hut under the rain to Ijoma's house. People who saw him on the road thought he was going mad. Ijoma was not in her hut, but sat under the tree where she was crying and singing. His heart hurt badly when he saw the way she looked and the pain emanating from her voice. He moved close immediately and hugged her tightly. "I'm so sorry, EJ. I understand why you kept this secret. We can figure it out. We will find solutions." He was saying too much at once. Ijoma stared at him, shocked and confused. What was he talking about? He was getting married in a few weeks. "But it's late, Dera. I thought you hated me. You even warned me never to talk to you again." "I did?" Dera asked, confused. "No, I only said I needed time to think. I felt hurt. See, I love you too much to let you go. I can't live without you." Ijoma could feel the sincerity in him, but she was confused. What was wrong with him? Yesterday, he was with Nkiru, and today, he's saying something else. "Dera, you are getting married to Nkiru in a few weeks. Don't you get it?" Ijoma cried. "Me? Getting married? What are you talking about?" he asked, looking shocked. "Is Nkiru not your sister? How come? What am I doing with her?" Ijoma was as confused as Dera was. Was he pretending, or could it be that Dera was under a spell? They decided to seek the counsel of a wise man in their village. After the rain, they visited Okonkwo, the village diviner, to give them answers to their confusion. They both couldn't understand what was happening. Okonkwo laughed the moment he saw them coming. "Thank your Chi, Dera. You are a very lucky man." He then told them how Nkiru had held Dera down with charms so she could be with him. The young lovers could not believe their ears. Was Nkiru that desperate, they wondered. This explained it. That was why she shared Ijoma's secret with Dera. Dera apologized to Ijoma for hurting her, and Ijoma apologized for keeping secrets from him. They embraced each other and cried. Okonkwo left them to have some private time alone. The two agreed to play along with Nkiru. On her wedding day, she was going to receive the biggest disgrace of her life. The first thing was to seek solutions to free Ijoma. He told his parents all that happened. Chief Annie smiled. They had always known that something was wrong. They all decided that they were going to travel to Ika, which was Ijoma's native home. They needed to know how to liberate her, so she could be free to marry. Another maiden had taken over in the shrine, and when they consulted the gods, it was established that her chi was very angry with her and she needed to appease the gods and then undergo spiritual cleansing and rituals so that she could be free. The demands for the appeasing sacrifice was very high. They had demanded 7 cows, 7 white fowls, and 70 cowries. Chief Annie and his family loved Ijoma so much, as they knew how much she made their son happy. They paid all dues and the sacrifice and ritual began. It lasted for 7 days, and after that, they declared that Ijoma was free to go. Her marriage rites were performed to her extended family, as it should be, and she went back to Annie with her husband and father-in-law. Meanwhile, Dara was still pretending to be under Nkiru's spell, and she still went about boasting to anyone who had ears to listen about her upcoming marriage ceremony. Finally, the long-awaited day arrived, and the entire village gathered at the village square, excited for the grand ceremony. Dara played his part perfectly, showing no sign of the knowledge he now held. As the ceremony began, the village dancers performed and the festivities were in full swing. Nkiru, adorned in her finest attire, beamed with pride and confidence as she danced into the village square with her bridesmaid. She was so happy that she danced and danced. The ignorant villagers hailed her, singing her praises as she swung her waist around. Dara felt irritated, but decided to hold his anger. He wondered how one could display wickedness with so much skill. From the onset, he never had a good feeling about Nkiru. She danced to where Dara was, and he smiled and patted her. And then another drums rolled off. The village women and some maidens were dancing in with another maiden. Nkiru was shocked, as she couldn't understand what was happening. Dara stood, watching them and beaming with smiles. He was imagining the look on Nkiru's face when she would realize who it was. It made him chuckle to himself. As they got close, Dara hugged her as the confused villagers looked in shock. Was he getting married to 2 women, they wondered. This had never happened before, and who was this other woman? Then, he brought her close, and she faced the crowd. Behold, there stood Ijoma. Nkiru's eyes and mouth were opened in shock. What? Was she played? What was happening? The charms. She was finished. As she tried to run, she was held back by the village women. Dara then turned to the gathered crowd and began to address them. People of Nri, he began, his voice strong and clear. I have something important to reveal to you before the ceremony continues. The crowd fell silent, curious and confused. Nkiru's face paled as she shook like a rat thrown into a bucket of water. I have been under a spell, Dara continued. This evil girl here, Nkiru, used dark magic to manipulate my feelings and actions. But the spell has been broken, and I see the truth now. I have chosen Ijoma, who has always been kind and true, as the one I love. Gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd. Nkiru stood frozen, her face a mask of horror. Nkiru, you betrayed me and your friend here, who took you in when you had no one. All we did was love you and embrace you as family. You are so evil, Dara said, turning to her. You used dark magic on me for your own selfish gain, and now you must face the consequences. The villagers, shocked by the revelation, began to murmur and whisper amongst themselves. Chief Annie stepped forward, his expression stern. Nkiru, your actions have brought shame upon yourself and our village. You will be held accountable for your deeds. Nkiru, realizing her plans had failed, fell to her knees, pleading for mercy as tears rolled down her face. But the villagers were unforgiving, their anger and disappointment evident. The women took sticks and flogged the hell out of her, and then some masquerades gathered with their canes, flogging and chasing her with her son out of the village. It was such a big disgrace. The village elders banished Nkiru from the village for her treachery. She was sent away with her son, left to face the consequences of her actions alone. The ceremony continued and the villagers continued with the big celebration. The maidens who had mocked Ijoma felt so ashamed of themselves as they ran out of the occasion. They had come to seal Ijoma's tears, but were all disappointed. Dara looked at Ijoma affectionately. I can't believe we had to go through this. I just want you to know that I can't live without you. I love you so much, and we won't let anything ever come in between us again. You give me joy and you are just everything I need, he said to her. Tears filled Ijoma's eyes as she embraced him. Dara and Ijoma, free from the shadow of the seats, began to rebuild their lives together. Their love, tested by dark times, grew stronger, and they became an example of true and enduring love for the entire village. The memory of their trials served as a reminder that goodness and truth always prevail in the end. Hey besties, thank you for watching this story, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did enjoy making it. I would like you to drop your comments and share your lessons in the comment section, as I love reading them all. I may not be able to respond to everyone, but I will try my best to do, as your comments are so much and so encouraging. They make me so happy, and I love reading everyone's comments. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You've made my stay here a very memorable one, and I can't thank you enough. If you watch my story and you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please do not hesitate to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified whenever we post new stories. Right now, I will have to go and see you in our next story. Bye!